As everyone's joining, we're going to get started. My name is Liz. I'm the Internship and Diversity Programs Advisor here at the USC Career Center. And I'm joined today by Albert, Nicholas, and Emily. We're going to get started with a set of questions, but at the end, we're going to have some time for you all to ask questions through the Q&A for our recruiters here. Alrighty, so today's topic is networking. So it's kind of a hot topic with our students, with kind of everyone, right? It kind of comes up in our conversations with friends and family. But I think that your perspective as recruiters is going to be very valuable to our students. So we're always telling students that networking goes a long way in their internship and job search. Can you share some examples of how networking has helped a student that you've hired? And whoever wants to take it first.
Yeah, I could take it first if you guys don't mind. It's nice to meet everybody. My name's Albert, by the way. I'm a recruiter here at Uniqlo. One really great example for me on my end is we have an internship program, just to give you guys some background story. And the purpose of the internship program is to kind of find those future early talents and eventually convert them over to full time once they, graduate or head towards that route. One really great example is we had a junior previously that joined us in summer 2023, actually, as a sustainability intern. She did amazing throughout her summer with us, all great reviews, connected with the team a lot. As part of our internship program, we have multiple networking opportunities for our students. This includes different breakfasts with C-suite individuals, fireside chats, and just team bonding engagement events. And so through events such as this, she was able to connect more with the merchandising team. And, as she neared graduation and wrapped up her internship with us, she kept continuously reaching out to us as recruiters and keeping contact with, this merchandising team. And eventually what happened was our merchandising team, they were creating a program revolved around early graduates. This new grad and merchandising program was created, and she saw it on LinkedIn, reached out to the recruiters again, said, hey, hope you guys have been doing well. And, it's me again from summer 2023. She got into the interview process, passed the interview, and happy to say that now she's in that role itself and actually, being on track towards graduating the program itself and also converting into a full-time individual too. Um, Always networking is a key to your next opportunity. Keeping those relations and partnerships with those you previously worked with is always important, and always just being transparent on what you want to do and what you're seeking for your next role is great for recruiters to just help you out in general.
That's
I
amazing,
think,
Albert. Nick or
oh,
Emily? Go ahead.
yeah, I think that's a really great example of a student thinking outside the box when it comes to this like super competitive internship and full-time search market. I'll give a quick intro. My name is Emily, working here with AT&T. I've been in the recruiting space for 2 years, but I also came from a development program, which is what I do here at AT&T. I recruit and hire for our various development programs. We have about over, I would say over 20. Some have internships, some are full-time opportunities, but definitely work closely with our technology development program here at AT&T, which receives a lot of applications every year. We had a pretty high volume come in this past fall. And so I think standing out is really important. You hear standing out a lot, but what does that mean, right? So I know Albert gave a good example that I would definitely try to use in your own job search. One that I can think of at the moment is if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll even send you my LinkedIn URL. I just posted a podcast, and these three TDP engineers give some really great career advice on how to really get into maybe a program like TDP, right? And so one of the individuals, she didn't mention my name on the podcast, but I thought it was so funny. She brought up this memory that we had together. This was a student at UC Berkeley. It was my first recruitment event ever. And one thing, if you're ever at a career fair, which, we're interacting with maybe 100 plus, 200 plus students in that 6 hour time frame sometimes, I would say even those navigating those conversations they don't always have to be about just strictly job search. So she brings up this conversation where we were talking about I think like clothes and makeup. I know that sounds really weird, but it was just a nice change of pace because most of our quick 30-second chats are about, hey, I want this job, I'm in this major, et cetera, right? But maybe even taking a moment to ask the recruiter, how's your day going? What do you like to do outside of AT&T? Things like that. You never know. You might find something in common. And lo and behold, she actually ended up landing a full-time job here at AT&T through the technology development program. So just remembering at the end of the day, the people that you're connecting with are human. We have lives outside of work, and being able to find some type of commonality is really key to networking, whether it's with a recruiter or even someone in the role that you want to pursue one day. So that's just a little tip on thinking outside of the box and just making those small connections.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of, just piggyback off of you guys. First off, my name is Nick Brown, and I am currently a recruiter for our kind of leadership development programs with Gallo. So kind of similar to Emily, as she was saying. And I think networking is honestly the biggest thing that I really like seeing as a recruiter. I remember over the summer, so this one girl had already graduated from another school that I recruit from, Cal State Long Beach, and she was getting prepared for the career fair in August, and she had did all her research on the company. She did her research on myself, and when she met me at the career fair, she knew everything about me, where I went to school at, just the company, the role, and all that. And it really showed that she took the initiative to really kind of dig deep on recruiting and how the company is, and I really like that. Then after that event, she asked me for a coffee chat via LinkedIn, and I thought that that was really cool because she took the initiative to really find out more about myself, and also B, about the company and the different opportunities that we have here at Gallo. And yeah, it all went well. She went through her interview process, she killed it, and she's currently killing it right now with us in the field. So that was a really cool kind of, just determination story that I really liked seeing, and it just felt rewarding for me on the end. So yeah, I encourage everyone to really network and really go the extra mile to really find out about the company, the person who is a recruiter, so you can kind of get an example of what that company kind of like the feel and the culture is. So yeah.
I love that you all gave like different examples, right? Like it looks different for everyone. There are different ways to network. And I think like each of you kind of affirmed what we always tell our students of like, you can get creative, right? I think that Emily, you had mentioned something that's a pretty good segue into my next question, which is LinkedIn, right? So that's kind of like the hot topic with networking with people you maybe don't know. So I think one of the most common questions we get from students is it okay to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn? So I kind of want to start with, how you all feel about students reaching out to you all, and is that something you would recommend? And Emily, I think since you mentioned it, do you want to maybe touch on it first?
Yeah, I can definitely kick us off. I feel like every recruiter might have their own flair in how they navigate and manage LinkedIn. I'll be very honest, since I've been in this role, it's been really tough for me to manage the volume of messages that I receive, unfortunately. I do my very best, but I'm not as active these days because I also do like full cycle recruiting. So I do interviews, I do offers. So I'm not always online, to be quite honest. But that's my 2025 intention for the year, to schedule some time to be more active in my DMs, I would say. And so I always say in anything in life, right? You got to shoot your shot, you got to slide in the DMs. It's okay to do that, but just be very mindful that if someone doesn't respond, whether it's a recruiter or someone at the company, it's not personal. Everyone has different opinions on like social media, whether it's from a personal and professional perspective. And so I would say if you are going to reach out to recruit on LinkedIn, just be very intentional. Keep it short and sweet. I came from a sales or B2B sales background, so I think of cold emailing like sales. You want to do a little bit of research if you can to tailor the message to the recruiter that you're reaching out to. I know Nicholas mentioned that individual knew where he went to school, and maybe if you have that commonality, like, hey, I'm a CSULB alumni, looks like you also went to CSULB and majored in something similar that I am, really interested in learning about your career trajectory and XYZ, because that is something I'm super interested in. And I like to close out, this is kind of when I was maybe a little bit younger, looking to have those coffee chats more often. I would say, hey, if there's an opportunity to chat in the coming weeks, because, you know, people's schedules are always evolving, I would be super excited to do so over a quick call. And of course, if you do end up landing that chat, send an invite, have some pretty detailed questions ready to go. And of course, tailor them to who you're speaking to. And also, if it's not the recruiter, maybe if you're asking the recruiter, like, do you know someone in XYZ unit at AT&T that maybe I can speak with, because recruiters might not have the time. So I would say never take it personal. If someone doesn't respond, it's probably because maybe their inbox has a million messages. But if you're able to get an email, I would say that probably goes a long way too. So only if that recruiter is open to providing an email too, because I sometimes do get some emails. I'm like, how did you get my email? But I would say, I think you should always shoot your shot. So that's my tidbit there.
Yeah, no, I also agree with Emily. So in my opinion, I believe it's okay to reach out to your recruiter via LinkedIn. Obviously, it depends on each recruiter. But just to kind of reiterate what Emily said, please be mindful that, you know, for a recruiter, there's like, I usually view it as 3 inboxes that we got to look at. There's my personal, there's my work email, and then now technically LinkedIn's also another thing I have to look at too. So don't take it personal too as well if there's going to be some time that, you know, that they haven't responded to you yet. But just to kind of say the same thing, essentially, like, how you would get their contact information would probably be the best option on how you could reach out to them. So for example, if a recruiter gave you their email, or like in the case that, you know, some of these recruiters here we have business cards, right? And those business cards may just list their, you know, email or their phone number. And so that's probably the best way to kind of put that foot forward and reach out to them, is how you get that contact information. But it's kind of similar to, you know, it doesn't hurt to shoot your shot. I recommend, if you ever have any like you know, personal meetings, or if you met that recruiter in person and you guys had a little chat about something, in that email, it's always best to kind of remind them of where you met them at, or what event you saw them and what you guys talked about. Because at the end of the day, recruiters, we meet like over 50 or 60 people every single day. And as much as I would love to remember every conversation, it is going to be a little bit difficult. And so just a little friendly push of reminder of when you met someone or what you talk about kind of gives your recruiter a sense of like, oh, this is that person from that event. And so that kind of also helps out with making these more personal too.
Yeah, I know for me on my end, I love LinkedIn. I actually really like it a lot. So I encourage everyone to reach out to me. No matter how many DMs I have, I promise I will try to respond to yours as soon as I can. But yeah, I really love it when candidates are really, you know, outgoing about, you know, offering a coffee chat or some type of extra learning on whether the company, like I said, or just myself in general. I think that it just shows that they're going the extra mile. I would say, like, if you're like cold emailing or like cold LinkedIn DM someone, I would kind of like add like a little elevator pitch, but like in writing, maybe kind of like, you know, an intro, your unique skills or whatever that would make you kind of like a candidate for that whatever role that you're looking into. But if you already met them, like kind of like what Albert said, kind of like, you know, restate something that you guys talked about in person and kind of relay that to the DM that you are typing up. And then always I would encourage everyone to, at the end of the message, always some type of follow-up. You know, you never want a LinkedIn message to just be close-ended at the end of that. You always want to, you know, I would love to schedule a 20-minute coffee chat with you in the next week to kind of further the discussion about the opportunities and kind of get to know the company a little bit more. If you know, send a DM and it's just, it's just that, then they're probably just gonna like the message or a quick little thank you, and that's it. So you always want that conversation to be ongoing. And also kind of like what I said earlier, kind of like know if this is like a cold email, a cold shot that you're shooting, or this is already kind of like a warm shot. So just be mindful of everything.
All really good advice. I think that really helps kind of answer the question of like, what should I be saying to recruiters on LinkedIn? Because it's hard to say we're obviously like looking for internships and jobs, and it's like there's like an elephant in the room of like, I want to reach out, but I don't know what to say. So I think you guys all really covered that really well. Albert, like, what do you mean you don't remember hundreds of people? I'm kidding. I know our recruiters really do talk to like hundreds and hundreds. So just keep that in mind, that that reminder really does go a long way. More than just the event. Remember, like they go to different schools, so event and school really does help them. And now you kind of each talked about like reminding students of, you know, the event that you met them at, right? So you've obviously all attended different sort of networking mixers, recruitment events. What are some things that you like to learn about students from these events as they're like, you're trying to get to know them? What makes them stand out to you?
Yeah, I could tackle this one on first. And so, I mean, just also wanted to add a statement. If it's a USC student, I'm gonna remember it. And so, any other student, that's gonna be a different scenario. But if they're specifically from USC or a USC event, that's a different story. You know, my memory is like toned to remember those from USC specifically. But back to the topic, in terms of like what we really want to have the students tell us about or just learn about them in general. Um, I would say like it depends on the setting, right? But if it's like a networking mixer, which is a little bit more casual compared to like a recruitment fair, right? I would say for me, that's kind of like one of those scenarios where it's coded for kind of getting to know you on a personal level because you have more time to talk to them, right? For example, at a career fair, it's kind of like, you know, rapid fire, or you're staying 1 or 2 minutes talking to an individual compared to like a networking mixer where it's given more time. You know, the recruiters to students ratio is a little bit uh, more personable too. And so for that experience, for like networking mixers, for example, I would say it's greater to be more personable, but also still have that professional sense into it. It's kind of like a 30% learning more about your personal life, and then 70% also at the same time learning about your professional life. Because at the same day, like at the end of the day, the networking mixers is to learn or get to know each other more in a professional setting too. But based on scenarios like that, it's a great way for you to kind of connect with recruiters outside of recruitment fairs or on that more mass setting, because I feel like networking mixers itself are a little bit more personable and just less in attendance. So it gives more attention for students to talk with recruiters at the end of the day.
I can go next. I definitely agree with Albert, is just reading the room, right? Every networking event is gonna look a little bit different, whether, I mean, I've been to a few USC events now, so usually at the expo, smaller table event, and you know, my line is still pretty long. But I will say, if there's only a few people in the line, you realize, okay, I have a little bit more time that I can engage with this recruiter. But if the line is long, you want to be mindful of others behind you. So you want to make it short and sweet. For me, honestly, anytime I'm meeting a student, I like to know, you know, what year you're in, what major you belong to, and, you know, what roles you're seeking. I would kind of think of it in those 3 different ways. And then if you can, maybe throw in, this is what I like to do on my free time. And sometimes your free time might tie into why you're pursuing this passion, right? Whether it's software engineering or coding, et cetera. Software engineering, coding are similar. But then you kind of get to know the recruiter as well, right? So, you know, sometimes the person at the table might not be a recruiter. They might be a data analyst at AT&T. They might be a project manager, et cetera, right? So get to know that person. Keep it very conversational. If you only have 3 to 5 minutes, I would say that's a pretty good chat. You could learn a lot in 3 to 5 minutes. And then come prepared with questions, right? I think always have at least 3 to 5 questions that you can ask. Have those ready to go. I like that Nicholas mentioned of student already researched the company. So I would look at it in two ways. So if you have, like, say there's 10 targeted companies that you have, that's going to be a lot of homework, but I would say you'll probably have a mix of questions you can use across all the companies, or you can have more like industry focused questions that you can ask. And then lastly, to wrap this up in a bow, I would say be open-minded to learning about companies you may have not heard of. Maybe they're not in the Fortune 500, maybe they're not the big four, right? But there's so much opportunity to learn from small companies as well. So especially in this job market, I'm telling students, be very open-minded to maybe a wider salary range, right? You might not be making the six figures right out of college. I know I wasn't, but because I was open to maybe having a wider salary range, I've been able to have a pretty fast career trajectory and get to maybe where I'd like at a certain point in my life. So that's kind of the way I would go about networking, whether it's with a recruiter or anyone else at the company that is a part of that table.
Yeah, I think it's all important on reading the room and just seeing how much time, you have to talk. If I have time to talk, I love to kind of find out everything about whoever I'm talking to, what they like, do they like sports, music, all that. I also kind of want to see kind of like what motivates them or kind of like what gets them going, because I feel like that can kind of determine how I kind of like continue the conversation and kind of, add to what Gallo has to offer and everything. But yeah, I think it's really also involvement. Here at Gala, we love students who are involved. So, I would love for you to share with me, you're e-board member of this student org or part of this Greek Life. I really like that. Um, but I think, some of the questions that I really enjoy when students ask me are kind of like career questions where like, where did you see yourself within 5 years within Gallo? I really like that because it shows that they are not only looking at just the entry level role, but like an actual career with Gallo. Because that's how I was when I was in college. I wasn't, I didn't really want to do sales when I was in college. I was more attracted to the career versus like the entry level role. So if someone is really kind of like looking into the company and really seeing themselves having a future with us, I really like that. So again, just continue to do your homework, know who you're talking to, kind of fill out the conversations. At the end of the day, I think Albert said this, but we are all human. So yeah, don't act like we are robots or anything. Trust me, we experience everything. So just be yourself, and I think the conversation will flow naturally.
Yeah, I want to echo what you all said. The lines are long, right? Sometimes, especially for our recruiters here, make the most of your time in line, because sometimes you may not know who the recruiters are before they get there, but maybe upon arrival, you see Emily's there. Emily has her name tag, and you can find Emily's profile on LinkedIn and use the time in line to kind of do some research. Just as an example, I'm not saying everyone go and research Emily, but just make the most of your time when you are in line, right? Rather than just kind of being on social media, spend that time actually doing some research. It will go a long way. Now, kind of transitioning more to like when students actually have an internship. What should students be doing to network while they are in the internship? Nick, do you want to start us off?
The question was, what should students do while they are having the internship?
The network, yes.
Yeah, I believe, if you are having an internship, I think you should, as much as possible, try to pick, people's ears and really try to find out what it is that, they do in the company. I think it's important that you kind of do all levels of the company. So, try to schedule a chat with, the entry level positions, then the first level manager positions, and then even directors if you are available. I know at Gallo we kind of like have processes where you have times to kind of shadow and mentor everyone in the company. So I really encourage you to really go out of your way and talk about how your experience has been so far, and that you would like to learn what this position would be like because you are interested in this company and really see yourself having a future here. So again, continue to reach out, show interest, be yourself, and I think that it'll really go a long way. And, that's how these directors are going to remember you. So come like senior year, when you are going up for the full time, they're going to be like, oh, like Nick, like he really showed interest in the company, and I can see him, taking my place or whatever in the next 10, 15 years. So yeah, I really, really go after and try to like, see all aspects of the business, not just the sales department if you're in sales, but really the HR side of things, technical side of things. I encourage you getting wisdom about all of it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Nick too as well. Specifically during your internship, like for example, here at Unico, we definitely different opportunities for you to network, like I mentioned earlier, and so always try to attend things like that. But the main thing I really wanted to kind of just say was try to even go to things outside of work or extracurriculars, right? Such as volunteering events. Here at Unico, we have volunteering days where we give people an opportunity to be outside of the office, and be with other employees to volunteer, help clean up a park, help out homeless shelters, etc., etc. And so by going to events like that, you're able to also connect with individuals outside of workspace, but given in a setting that's more casual too. It's kind of like showing face, right? And so, that gives you different opportunities to talk to people outside of that, scary professional setting at times. Like literally, we had some feedback from our interns like a couple years back where they were scooping up dirt next to like the CFO, which was crazy at the end of the day. And so, they got to know each other, do something that was, meaningful for the community. And so, trying to attend a lot of things outside of work or anything that is dealing with work, but that's extracurricular is always a great idea to kind of just put your foot out there and network in a different type of setting too.
I love that advice. I think those are all really great, key takeaways when you're navigating your career and hopefully securing a full-time job upon graduation. And I know recruitment can look different across different companies, but specifically at AT&T, when we hire for our development program, when we're interviewing for an internship, we also see that you have the potential to work here full-time. So we're not just thinking you're going to be here for a summer. We're thinking, oh, wow, we could see them being here 3 to 5 years. I can't say that for every program. It might look a little bit different across AT&T, but specifically like our technology development program, which is very popular. When I'm interviewing candidates, I'm like, okay, I really analyze that resume, and I'm like, they worked across so many different internships, which is great, but I'm like, what do they want to do? Because sometimes I see people navigating maybe tech or fintech and things like that. So be very strategic when even going down to like the resume part of your networking, right? But back to the specific question, while you're in the internship, I always say, always be networking, even if it's not formal, right? It doesn't always have to be a coffee chat. And I say all this because I'll be very transparent and vulnerable. I was a little bit on the shyer side while I was in college, and I realized how that sold me short in terms of opportunities. So it took me about a year to land a job, which was at AT&T, upon graduation. So I thought, oh, I want to work in the legal field. So I did that for a little bit, and then I was like, this isn't for me. But I probably should have been doing a lot of those things while I was in college. I did my best, but it was a learning curve. And so now I'm giving all this advice because I've seen it on both ends from my side of building up in my career and also working with a lot of interns here at AT&T. And so I would say you're going to grab lunch, right? You're going to the cafeteria. Do your best to try to meet maybe one new person a week if you can, just naturally, organically, I like to say. Sometimes you might not be in the mood, and I find myself doing that, but I'm like, hey, you never know what you can learn from this person, right? I'll give you a recent example. I'm trying to just make everything very relevant here. So we have a gym here at our El Segundo office, which is really nice. I call it like an Equinox dupe. And I didn't realize there was this lady who, usually when you meet someone, they're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm the AVP of our advertising here at AT&T. You're very casual, right? But eventually I started to make the conversation very organic. I'm like, oh, like, what do you do here at AT&T? What school did you go to? And then lo and behold, I find out she's in marketing here. And now she's like, if you ever want to stop by and have a coffee chat, you're more than welcome to come by. So those are just very organic ways to network well, whether you're in your internship or in your career. But I would say even making it a homework assignment to try to meet, whether it's one new person a week, it could be a coffee chat, it could be a lunch, it could be just a virtual call. And the year just started, right? You have plenty of time to network. So try to set like a realistic goal, like maybe it might not be one person a week, but maybe 1 to 2 people a month. And while you're in the internship, let's try to, set up some coffee chats across different business units at the company that you're at, whether it's Gallo or Albert. Correct me if I'm wrong. I always thought it was Uniqlo. Is it Uniqlo?
It's either one. It's kind of like just based off how you feel it, but Uniqlo. Customers are main
Okay.
focus, so whatever the customer likes, that's what they can pronounce it as.
Okay, well, I'm a very avid Uniqlo customer, so I didn't know there was like different ways to say it. But yeah, I would say just make that effort, and it's going to pay off in the long run when you want that full-time job, and hopefully it's with the company that you are really interested in pivoting into in the future. I mean, I don't want to put myself down, but I'm like, don't be like me and don't be shy. Even if it's uncomfortable, just put yourself out there. It's gonna definitely pay off in the end.
Yeah, I love how you all mentioned like just get to know different people at the company or even just your office. Like, it's normal to not know like your exact career path. I think speaking for myself and maybe a few others here, like I wasn't totally sure when I was an undergrad what my career path would be. And it was until the end I started to really talk to people. So when you're in the internship, like talk to your peers, talk to other people doing different departments, right? That's the best way to learn. Like, is this really for me? And even if possible, job shadow. But this kind of is a good transition into informational interviews. Before I continue though, to our students, if you do have questions for our panelists, please put them into the Q&A, and there will be time at the end for them to answer your questions. But we always tell our students, we encourage them to do informational interviews. So each of you have kind of already mentioned this without mentioning, right, informational interviews. But as you're in the internship, or even if you're not in the internship, the best way to really know, like, if a career is right for you or how to get your foot in the door with a company is through an informational interview, right? So what questions do you recommend for students to ask during these informational interviews?
That's actually a really good question. I feel like there's like a few different buckets you can kind of like go with this one. I think the first one, I know this may be basic, but I think it's really important is, if they ask, what makes someone really stand out in the entire interview process. I like that question because they are like showing the initiative to really trying to go above and beyond when it comes to, just interviewing skills and everything like that. And then I also really encourage people to kind of ask me why I chose this career, why I chose Gallo, because I feel like I can relate to a lot of people. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. This was like my senior year. So I feel like I know a lot of college students are kind of in that same boat, and I want them to ask me that because I want to tell them about a great opportunity that Gallo has to offer. Um, and yeah, I think for me, really with Gallo, a lot of career questions I really encourage just because we are a family company and we intend to keep all of our new hires for their duration of their entire career. That is our goal. Our company culture here is great, and we want you to be aware of that. So really just questions on culture, how we kind of like balance work life. Um, and also just the upward mobility that the company has. I like people who are competitive and want to see themselves really grow within the company. So if they are asking about, what does it look like for like upward mobility, or how does that look like in your company? I really like that. So yeah, I encourage all of those questions kind of.
Yeah, I can definitely add on to that too. For me, informational interviews, you always want to also, at the end of the day, learn the perspective that who you're speaking with, right? Because they might, have some more experience in the field, and so it's always a good idea to just also learn more about the individual, their experiences, why they chose what they want to do, right? For me, I want to be always a recruiter because I love speaking to people, and I'm presenting them with an opportunity to find a career. There's nothing more satisfying than that. And so, a lot of, I would say, when you're having information interviews to see if this is the right role, is kind of focusing on the whys, right? So why do you want to do this? Why is it interesting for you? Why do you want to pursue it? It's kind of in that setting of like just figuring out what you want to learn and kind of just using that as a reasoning for, is this something or a field that I want to specifically get into? And then, you have someone that is there that's in the field. So, kind of just pick their brain, kind of analyze that, emotional aspect and more on like the personal setting of like why they want to do what they do. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of elaborate into helping you find out why you want to do or why you want to get into a career that you want to get into. And so use them as a resource. Feel free to ask them questions. I would say, like, as a recruiter, we're all pretty well versed on like why we want to do what we're doing. Obviously, I didn't know recruiting was going to be my first field, just to be very frank. But I'm glad that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing. And so, use that to your advantage to kind of have that resource for you to kind of help you guide you into the right career path that you want to get into. And so, don't be, feel free to ask those whys behind everything, because that definitely helps you towards guiding you in the right direction.
I like that. I would say it's pretty cool that a few of us have been at a point in our maybe academic or personal lives, or maybe we didn't have it all planned out. And if that's anyone out there as well, know that that is okay. And you might reach a point in your 3-year mark or your 5-year mark, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm thinking of doing something completely different than maybe what I studied or what I initially started. And I always tell candidates that it's okay to pivot, and especially at AT&T, that's very encouraged. I started in like B2B sales, and I went into sales enablement, and then I also pivoted into recruiting, which is not really planned, to be quite honest, but I really enjoyed, like, there's a bit of a service component to what I do, and I really enjoy that. And I would say when it comes to like the types of questions, I did mention this earlier, always have a set of questions ready to go. I know people go back and forth on ChatGPT and how to use it in maybe the most productive way. I have found a way that works for me, and I am, in the last 5-6 months, have done even my own personal networking and leverage that tool to try to come up with questions. But I always try to tailor them to sound like me as well, and to be very specific to the question or to the person that I'm speaking with. So find out what's really important to you. For me specifically, I am a first-generation Mexican American, so I'm always, if I can, it's not always possible, but I do try to connect with other maybe first-generation, other college grads or of the same Latin background, because I always say sometimes you can't be what you can't see, and it's just really nice to have that connection there, because we all come from, maybe different cultural backgrounds. We have maybe similar stories when it comes to our family upbringing. I feel like being even like first generation, sometimes I didn't have the same access to a certain network. But when I was able to make that connection, like, wow, this person also comes maybe from an immigrant family, and they were able to navigate that journey into attending college and then this really awesome career. It's really nice to just let people be vulnerable and transparent about that journey. So sometimes I'll tailor my questions to that. I kind of take it in a different direction, but I feel like sometimes that's really important for people, just like myself. So I would say when I meet with candidates, whether they're maybe they're women in STEM, even though I didn't graduate with a CS degree, but they do just, want to connect with some women, and I'm able to make those connections for them. You can ask those personal stories, right? What has your career trajectory been like as, a woman in STEM, when there's, it's usually dominated by males, that it still is at this time, right? So it could be a career path, maybe their background. You can also ask about industry insights, if that's really important to you. If you're really interested about, well, I know AT&T, you just think like cell phones, but there's much more to that, right? Whether it's like 5G, AI, we're, definitely tapped into that as well. And then You can ask about work culture. I know that's such a broad term, but if you're someone who's, I really only want to work remote, or I really want to work 3 to 5 days in office, those are questions you can ask, right? What's important to you? And then maybe lastly, you can ask about like challenges, how they've overcome certain challenges in their career, and just any general advice that they can give. So I would say just figure out what's really important to you, then make that connection and eventually come up with questions that are tailored to maybe your non-negotiables, and that way you get the most out of that conversation.
I love all of these like suggested questions. I think this really helps our students like think of what should they be asking in informational interviews. And I want to make sure I save some time for Q&A from our audience. So again, if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. But we do have we have a few. One from a student who is wondering, how would you all advise for them to when they're doing like a cold email or cold DM via LinkedIn, what should they put in there to help them stand out?
I can be quick. I may have mentioned it very briefly. I kind of had this template that I've shared with students, but I would say, hey, my name is Sally. I am a third year CS major or CS student at USC. I'm currently looking for XYZ. Or you can even start with how you met. Let's say you did meet at a fair, right? Or you know someone at AT&T in the TDP program. You can even start like that, or you can put it in the body. I've connected with Bob, who is also a part of the TDP program. I'm super excited to apply, but would love to learn more about the recruitment process, or what a day in the life is like as a TDP engineer. If there's an opportunity to chat, would love to schedule some time in the next 2 weeks, or you can get creative with that, and then keep it very short. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, I think those are all great kind of tips in terms of cold email or cold DMing. I would also say, like, to really help you stand out, you have to kind of bridge the gap between your transferable skills and what that company or what that position has to offer. So if you've been, involved in or the president of AMA at USC, how has that experience kind of given you skills that will help you with AT&T? Just really be able to bridge that gap. Number one, it'll show them that you kind of know about our company, and then it'll also prove to your credibility. So just be able to bridge the gap when you are kind of explaining yourself and your willingness to have a coffee chat.
Yeah, just to add on to as well, if you ever had a chance to meet them, like in person, I know cold DM is like, just out of the blue. But if you ever had a chance to meet them in person, it's always a good reminder to mention, like I said earlier, for one of the questions, always include where you met them or how you even got to find who they are. It's always a good idea to just have that breaking point just to help your recruiter understand, like, oh, how did this person get my name, or like how did they even find me in general. You could just be like, hey, like, I found that you are a recruiter for this role. My name is blank, and then I'm interested in the role. And also, as what Nick said, kind of bridge that gap between your transferable skills to just help your case out too as well.
Yeah, I love this. And we have another question. How would you recommend leveraging your existing network when applying for a role at their company? So what is the appropriate course of action?
Is this for like you're already like an employer or employee with that company, like post grad or whatever, or internship? Is that what the question is referring to?
I think so. I'm understanding it the same as you, Nick.
Okay, yeah. I encourage everyone, when you are kind of like new on the job, the internship, whatever the case may be, always try to see if you can kind of what we said during the internships, see if you can have coffee chats with different managers, maybe. You might want to see how other people work. Even people who are, the same title as you, kind of see how they do their business. I think really just getting a total understanding of how the company works is always really good. Keep those networks that you have really close to hand. I know when I started with Gallo, one of the directors who interviewed me, I made it a point, once a month to just email them, see how they're doing, and offer to catch up and grab something to eat. So, yeah, I would just always encourage you, remember who interviewed you because you probably will see them again in the company, and just always be cordial and polite when you do see them. But yeah.
So correction on the question though, but that's great advice, Nick. They said when applying to an internship. So it seems like leveraging your existing network when applying to an internship. So Albert and Emily, if you have any added suggestions, but I think Nick, you gave amazing advice.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me personally, if you are already existing or already have an existing network with that person, it's always great to kind of build that partnership or relationship up first before getting into that leeway of, hey, I'm trying to apply for a role at your company, right? I feel like that's just a respectful thing to do, rather than just like straight up forwarding, like, hey, I'm applying for this role. I saw we're networked and we're connected already. Like, can you refer me? Or I'm pretty sure the whole purpose of it is to get a referral, right? And so at the end of the day, it's better to get to know that person first, kind of like what Nick said a little bit there, scheduling coffee chats or any way that you can connect with them outside of that personal but more professional setting. That's a great way to kind of lean into, at the end of the day, trying to get a role at their company because we're everyone's a person at the end of the day. Not everybody's just gonna have someone recommend them just because they don't, just because they are connected or so. It's just better for that person that that's within the company to know you more as a person, so they can have a better foundation of whether they can just recommend you for that role. And so it's always better to kind of ease into it first. Introduce yourself, how you guys got to know each other, and then after that, kind of like scheduling a time for you to just chat to get to know each other. And then if things that they're saying aligns with what you want in a company and what the role entails, that's a great way for you to kind of ease into the way of having you get a recommendation from them for a company, for a role that you're interested in at their company.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And just because we're in a crunch for time, I'm going to ask the next question. But Emily, if you want to take it, the student asks, should we apply to an internship position and then meet with recruiters, or meet with recruiters and then apply?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually. I think it depends on timeline. So, for example, I do have scenarios where, for example, like our hiring recs do expire pretty quickly. So no matter what, I think you should, depending on when you're reaching out, the application, say they follow the traditional maybe fall recruiting timeline, you have now until the fall to network and hopefully get some coffee chats in. That will help you a lot more than if you were to do it after, right? But if it comes down to that, like let's say you go to an event in the fall, like August or September, and then the application is opening soon, and you maybe don't have time to schedule it with someone, I would say it's not going to hurt you either to do it after. So I would say always just, depending on the timeline, submit your application, and then start doing that networking, because you don't know when they're going to start reviewing your resume or application. So I think it's okay to do it after as well, but the suggestion is always to do it before.
And just because we're on a crunch for time, I do need to start closing out the panel. But my final question to each of you is, you've all given us very valuable information. And so where can our students see you next? So thinking about events or any sort of campus involvement that you're going to be present at, virtual or in person, where students may be able to chat with you or network with you.
I know for myself, I will be on campus for the Black Career, the career fair, I think this week, and then I will also be at the regular career fair on Thursday. The week after that, I have a few things with Dornsife, and I'm in Marshall a lot just for like dealing with those student worries. So I'm always on campus. You probably will see me and get tired of me up at USC.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate a little bit, like what Nick said, we definitely have a lot of events coming up. Specifically this week, definitely would love to see everybody here at the USC Career Center DEI Recruiting Expo on February 5th. We'll also be there at the USC Career Center Spring Career Fair on February 6th, which is the next day. So 2 days in USC, three including today. So definitely our love for Trojans is there. Next week, actually, we have our USC Marshall Virtual Career Fair. So any Marshall students, please feel free to sign up on our schedules there on February 11th. And then also, shameless plug, we have a USC Trojan Talk next week, February 12th from 6:15 to 7:50 p.m. Signups and everything like that are available on Handshake. So if you want to learn more about experiences from previous, people within the company and just hear more about Uniqlo, definitely would love to see y'all there.
Awesome. Well, I don't have the best news because I will not, unfortunately, I won't be on campus this week. A lot of our recruitment is wrapping up soon, but I would say if you do, if I am able to share an event that I'll be at, I'll definitely, email the career services team. Maybe we can do a Trojan Talk. We just have not, people are still kind of coming back into the office, so we're trying to figure some things out. But I would say if you want to connect with me, I don't think the chat is open for us to message everyone to leave our LinkedIn, but I'm happy to give that information over email. I will say we were able to extend one of our applications for the technology development program, which is pretty rare. So I'm going to email you, Liz, after this. We have it open until the end of the week. We are looking for 2026 grads. So if you do want to apply, I would say apply right away, and you're welcome to send me an email after as well, so we can keep an eye out for that. And also, coffee chats this is the best time for AT&T, the springtime. So if you want to connect and email me, I can set that up with you. So, we can put a chat to everyone. Perfect.
Yeah, I just changed the settings so that our panelists can now share information with you all via chat. So check out the links and the dates that they're putting in there as well. But thank you, each of you, for joining us today. And students listening today, please use the tips that they have shared with you. They shared a lot of really good advice for networking and put it to use. So hopefully Albert, Nick, and Emily will have like an email or a DM from one of you talking about how they learned from you today. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. I know Nick put his LinkedIn in there if you all want to connect with him. Albert put in some dates that he's going to be with us this week. And Emily just put in the opportunity she shared about. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our panelists for sharing their information and the links in the chat. And my colleague Lauren also put in the information for the upcoming recruitment fairs this week on February 5th, the DEI Recruiting Expo, and the 6th, the USC Career Center's Career Fair. And I also want to plug the next Inside Scoop series, which will be February 27th, where our panelists will be talking about interviewing tips directly from recruiters. So if you want to hear that, tune in on February 27th. And you can find more information about that on Handshake, which Lauren has linked in the chat. So thank you all for joining us today. I will close us out. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys.